Greetings, dear viewers, and welcome to my fan commentary on episode 36 of Power Rangers Time Force Circuit Unsure, which is one of the 5 episodes of Time Force leading us into the end. And I would have to say that of the 2 episodes dedicated to Circuit, this one is my favorite because personally, Circuited was just not my cup of tea. Although it was an early, TF episode with tripping Circuit, with Circuit being caught under Nadira's clutches. This episode was more of the foreshadowing point, setting up the finale, because I think this episode was the beginning of setting up the end of time, because this was actually more fitting for the end. Because given that they were showing the time holes, this was a sign that we need to get prepared for saying goodbye to the Time Force cast, because we've had them for 40 episodes, and it was time to say goodbye. Given this weekend, over the Labor Day weekend at the time of recording this, September 3rd marked the 20th anniversary since Tui Train, the original Yellow Ranger, had passed away. So I thought, okay, over the weekend, I'm going to put out this commentary to dedicate the 20th anniversary since her passing. But while this is still particularly Time Force's 20th anniversary, because time, pun intended, is almost running out with this anniversary for this great Ranger season. One of my biggest gripes I have about this episode is, Circuit was about to tell the Rangers what would happen in the future, but only for Circuit to feel like as though that his memory banks had gone through a complete data corruption, when really, this was really all Alex's doing. Alex should have never even cut Circuit off from letting the Rangers know of what was going to happen, because this is one, again, we're already at that point in Time Force when Alex had resurfaced and noticed that the Rangers had altered the course of the future in the course of history. He's been pretty, every time I just see Alex for these last few episodes, it's like he is just playing Time God or something. At this point, this is one of the last few mutants Rancic will have, because all of the mutants that he has sent out to take down the Rangers have already been captured by them. So now he's only down to 1 mutant left. But though, between this episode and the next episode, he has one of the capsules of one of the captured mutants still in that freezer he got for that 1 mutant for this episode. But I think in that capsule, there was probably, that capsule next to it probably had no mutant, because there's no more mutants he has left, because we're at the end of the series. The final 5 episodes. There isn't an important significance for those Trizerium crystals. You gotta love it how they cut between CG Circuit to practical Circuit, because it's going to be impossible having the practical, the practical puppet of Circuit flying around doing all that flying stuff. So they have to make him in CGI. And again, this was still early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s Power Rangers, and in the final days of Saban Entertainment, taking over the franchise, CGI still wasn't all that great. It's taken the franchise a while to get the CGI working and going with the series for visual and special effects stuff. I think Circuit looks a lot better as a practical character prop, as opposed to the, well, of course, you see that's Circuit in CG, but the CG looks very PS2 game cutscene like, even for Power Ranger standards, especially from back then. How many Trizerium crystals does Frax need to power up his robot is beyond me. I find this episode very heartfelt because, like, you know, for the last 20 years watching the season and watching this episode, this is one of my favorite episodes of Time Force. I keep overlooking this one. And, like, you know, Circuit feels like he's a defect. He'll mess up anything for the Rangers. So that's why he ran away. And now they gotta find him and wonder where he went in the city or somewhere around Silver Hills Beach. You know, it was nice for them to do this episode in dedication to Tui Trang, because I never really thought they would actually dedicate this kind of episode to her. You know, I was really like, okay, well, given that Time Force is, you know, this was when the show was catching up with me, because earlier on during the first couple of episodes before 9/11 with this season, I was just not fond of the series. But I would say once when they did those episodes with Alex returning and then Frax and Rancic's rivalry fully folding, and then you also got the unveils for two new things for West before the show is over, and then then the Lightspeed Rescue team up with Time Force, and these final few episodes here. That's when Time Force was catching up with me, and I think this is when the show was getting good. But I should have been more appreciative of Time Force from the start 20 years ago. But around these kind of episodes like this, Nadira's Dream Date, the Mirror episode, the Lightspeed Rescue crossover with this season, the Beware the Night episode, and the finale. I would say these episodes was probably when I really was getting into the series, but this is when the show was getting good to me, because at first I just couldn't get into the series, but now it's taken a long time for me to get into it. But of course, with the reruns, I would catch up on Time Force and what made it so great in the first place. Because in 2001, I was just so blinded by In Space and Lost Galaxy being so great, and Time Force was like, ugh, how can this series be any better than those two seasons? Yeah, although I would say Time Force is slightly better than Lightspeed, but I mean, not that I don't like Lightspeed Rescue, but but upon my rewatches as years went on, I started opening back up to Lightspeed Rescue and find some good things out of that season. Time Force always had a lot of great moments. Although, yeah, I have to admit, even in the initial pre 9/11 airings, I still liked episodes like Movie Madness and Love Struck Rangers and the Clash for Control two-parter. Great. First Nasada, and now this space station in Silver Hills. Coincidence. You know, it really sucks they never did make Circuit as a toy. You know, given with Hasbro doing a bunch of Power Rangers Lightning Collection figures, whenever they do finish up any Lightning Collection stuff for Time Force, I hope eventually we'll get some sort of a toy for Circuit. Maybe bundled with the Green Ranger, even if it's just a small little Circuit accessory with Circuit and Trip's hands sometimes. I always liked it, Circuit and Trip together, because they were a great combo. Animatronic futuristic owl robot with a alien Green Ranger. Great combo. It's the same thing with Talk and Scion and Time Ranger. It just makes me wonder. I must wonder if Mariner Bay even had a space center compared to Nasada in this. You know, although this was in the Sentai footage, but that mutant should have never put his hand on the keyboard and caused the self-destruct sequence to fast forward to only from 42 minutes to 2 minutes. That was his mistake. But it makes sense. You got to raise the stakes and realizing that, well, with the self-destruct sequence being fast forwarded, you know, to 2 minutes, so we don't have much time because given each episode of Power Rangers, you know, it's only 20. You got to tell a certain story within 20 minutes each episode, so you don't got a whole 20-minute episode to do a self-destruct sequence like that within 40 minutes. That's just not possible. You're a dumbass for even putting your hand on the keyboard, causing the sequence to go fast forward to only from 42 minutes to 2 minutes. Dumbass. Oh, now it's 15 seconds? God damn. I do like this fight between this mutant and the Quantum Ranger because it's kind of like an old-fashioned cowboy movie fight. Well, when we get to the part when they turn their backs on each other, wielding their respective guns, and you know, that's just not enough. I mean, Trip needs more time to hold back from the self-destruct doors to the space station to from closing. What I do like about this episode is that how they really raised the stakes with this one. The self-destruct sequence had been fast forwarded, but now time has elapsed, and you know the Rangers don't have enough time to keep the doors open, so Trip can have enough time to disable the sequence. This was one of the finest parts for Eric versus a mutant. This is so much like out of a cowboy movie. This is one of the few things I miss in Power Rangers these days. Episodes like this is one of those high stake episodes, and I think that's probably why this episode is one of my favorites. You can clearly tell that even with Circuitous talking, his mouth wasn't moving there. That shot of Circuit right there, that was CG. When coming off the console controls. I believe faculty indoor location. It was probably slightly used in VR Troopers, I think, because when I was watching the series during the second season of that. I mean, if Katie is that strong, I mean, yeah, her strength was just no match for that that closing door, because with her physical peak of health, it just wouldn't work. But now that the self-destruct sequence has been aborted, well, at least they've stopped the place from even trying to explode. Now that footage of that forest shot right there before showing up the Q-Rex, that footage was from Lost Galaxy Sentai counterpart of Gingaman from the first episode of that Sentai. But although Sentai would use that forest shot a couple of times in those days of Sentai pre-Gal Ranger, I think. And also the music for the Q-Rex when marching is changed from what his music was from earlier, because at this point in time for us, this was when, okay, they already filmed and completed the series months before 9/11 and before the show it was almost finishing airing. So at this point during post-production on episodes like this, you can tell that the change in the music and stuff this was back when Saban was starting to send Power Rangers to a new ownership from Saban to Disney, because this was one of the last few episodes Saban Entertainment's overall production crew would have any involvement with Power Rangers, so that would explain some of the change in the music. And also there's some bits of some shades of some of the on the screens, which I didn't notice on the DVDs, that on the sides of on the front, on the top and on the top left and right sides of the screen, there was something black on the sides of the screen when the Quantosaurus Rex was going to go into Megazord form. I didn't notice that when I was watching this in detail. Of course, you had to do what was done in this episode from Time Ranger with Circuit getting shot down by the mutant, because this is one of the few times, like before, where the Rangers don't use the Time Force Megazord to finish off the episode and capture the mutant. So it makes sense to use the Time Jet to finish this situation off. Actually, this episode, the next episode, and the first two parts of End of Time, they don't use the Time Force Megazord, but they will use the Time Force Megazord to finish off Frax's Doomtron in the final episode. It's just these remaining few episodes for the end of the series, Eric is the one using the Q-Rex to finish off most of the work. But though, when I do talk about the End of Time, when I finally get to the finale for the season sometime later, I will talk about some notable differences from Time Ranger to what they've done here. You can see that he was already building Doomtron while he was already finishing up Max. Yeah, but those red lights in circuits is Torso wasn't present a few couple of frames and shots earlier, when even during the climax of the episode, but the light effects in his stomach is back. See, again, this episode was a slightly better episode for Circuit than it was Short Circuited, because this episode was a rather more serious, because we're getting close to the end of the series. Yeah, and this is the episode, of course, where, okay, once we zoom into Alex looking into the future and what's going to happen leading to the end foreshadowing, we do get that moment of a brief of silence for Tui Trang. So there you go. And as of this point, let's have a moment of silence one more time, and then I'll end the video here.